God's peace and joy are mine. God's peace and joy are yours. Is there anywhere you've been withholding peace and joy from one of your brothers? That's what this lesson asks. And unlike the world sees things, where it seems like if I give you something, then I am lessened and I lose it. Or you give me something and you are lessened, you lose it, and I gain. That is not how giving works. True giving is not something in which somebody has a loss and there's expected to get something back. True giving is giving, giving, and giving, and the giving we receive. Now, you may have heard this before, and it seems like a good idea. Though, what gifts have you given where you expect nothing in return? And when you practice letting go for a while, you can see how many feelings are around giving. There's this idea that notice what you're wanting when you give something to someone. What are you actually trying to get in your giving? And so the world is all caught up in this idea of exchange, winners and losers, lenders and debtors, and so on and so forth. So, what we're looking for today is a new experience of what it is to give and the joy that comes with that. The joy in giving, truly giving, and having what we give be given unto us. And so it's recommended for this lesson to look at anybody who you've been denying God's joy and peace. Is there anyone you would withhold that from? Pick your favorite enemy. Pick your friend. Pick your family member. Pick your spouse. It matters not. For in this exercise, we're just going to look at how it feels to be withholding God's joy and peace and discover that that's actually withholding God's joy and peace from ourselves. Oh, and is that something you're interested in? Would you not rather give God's joy and peace and have it yourself? This is available to you, the true meaning of giving, the true experience of an ever expansive and multiplying joy as you allow for it. So let's begin releasing today just by considering somebody who maybe seems unworthy of the gifts God has. Someone you would deny yourself God's gifts by denying them God's gifts. And this is not meant to be rational, logical. I know I shouldn't withhold. Are you withholding? Are you withholding? Is someone unworthy of God's peace and joy? Have you been denying that to them? Secretly in your heart, this is a bad person and doesn't deserve peace and joy, and love and light. No. So just take that person and pull them in mind for a moment. Who's that no good, dirty, rotten scoundrel, or just some kind of bad guy? Just does it seem that way? And could you allow yourself to feel what it feels like to be withholding God's peace and joy from that person, resisting giving them God's peace and joy without making right or wrong of it? Could you simply notice any energy, any darkness you may be carrying and giving other than light? And just begin to lighten it up just by noticing how that feels. And could you let go this withholding the gift of God's peace and joy from your brother or sister. We just say brother, just means another person, a seeming other person. Would you let go of withholding God's peace and joy from this person that you may give God's peace and joy to yourself, that you may have it as you give it? When could you let go and let God's peace and joy flow to you through a seeming other? For you have given what you would receive. And it's interesting to look at this and see, oh, okay, I'm like asking, where am I withholding God's peace and joy from somebody? Oh, there's that little grievance. There's that little attack. There's that little thing I didn't really like. It's all okay. Why would we be doing this if we had no need for it? Could you just allow yourself to bring anyone to mind who you're withholding God's peace and joy from through some small grievance or large grievance, whatever comes up for you? And first off, could that be okay? Could it be okay to have a little grievance without judging yourself or adding guilt on top of it? Could you simply notice how it feels to be withholding God's peace and joy from someone for some grievance? Could you lighten up this darkness just by noticing what's been carried? And could you release what would have God's peace and joy held back? Would you release what would keep you from giving God's peace and joy to yourself in the appearance of another person? When could you release and offer peace and joy to your brother, that you may have God's peace and joy as yours? There's no rush, just allowing any darkness to lighten. God's peace and joy are yours. And God's peace and joy, is that cut off from someone else? Do they not get it, but you do? And it's okay. It's okay. Just noticing any grievance, any withholding, any denial of peace and joy from a brother, any brother. And again, just take this as a genderless word, any person. And can you notice the cost of denying peace and joy? Do you see how it feels to have some grievance that would block the expansion of joy and peace in your experience? Could you ignore the thoughts of the wrong or whatever your brother did and just feel what it feels like to cut off this seemingly other person from peace and joy. Deny it to them. How does that feel? And could you surrender? Give up any grievance and offer peace and joy to your brother, that you may have it yourself. You never have to. It's okay not to. Just would you surrender something that would have you deny the expansion of peace and joy to yourself? When could you surrender? Offer your brother peace and joy, that you may have God's peace and joy as yours. God's peace and joy are mine. They're mine. God's peace and joy are yours. And is anyone unworthy of God's peace and joy? And it's okay to be honest. Who shouldn't get it? Who doesn't get God's peace and joy? Who have you imagined as a separate self from you? And do you have some good reason for making them an enemy and withholding such a gift of God's peace and joy, which are yours? And that's fine without making good or bad of whatever has come to mind. Could you notice how it feels to have made an enemy and denied the flow of peace and joy? Just watching, noticing, lightening up any darkness through your awareness, feeling what that feels like, letting it flow, unstick, letting the darkness dissipate just by acknowledging it, being aware of it, lightening the dark. And could you release this darkness, this belief in an enemy, and offer your brother peace and joy? Would you release and allow God's peace and joy to be yours through giving it away? When could you release and offer this person peace and joy, that you may have it yourself? Truly, you get what you give, and there is no one you give to but yourself. So you may notice that as you give a grievance, you get the feeling of carrying a grievance, a resentment, a disturbance. When you offer another peace and joy, love and light, you may discover that you benefit greatly. Feels very enlightened. So it's okay. It's okay. We're doing the human thing. We picked up programs in our innocence. Let's take a look at one more person who we would deny love, light, peace, and joy because of some grievance. And it could be super small. I don't like how they looked at me, to this person is a supervillain. They do all this bad stuff. It really matters not because you notice any denial of God's peace and joy to someone who seems like another person. Because you feel what it feels like to be giving out grievance, resentment, disturbance, whatever it is, wherever you're feeling it. This is the darkness which would obscure and limit God's peace and joy. And it will dissipate with rapidity if you simply bring it up to light. Could you allow this feeling to come up? Could you feel what it feels like, what you've been carrying, that grievance, or whatever it is, wherever it is? Just lightening it up, letting it come up, letting it move. And could you let it go? Let go of giving your brother some grievance and offer him peace and joy. You never have to. Would you, though? Would you let go of giving out the energy, the darkness of grievances that you may give out the light of God's peace and joy? Offer it to another. Perhaps you're offering it to yourself, and you have what you offer. When could you let go of offering what you do not wish to have? And offer another as yourself peace and joy, that you may have God's peace and joy as yours. God's peace and joy are yours. God's peace and joy are mine. This is the lesson today. God's peace and joy are mine. And what you give, you also receive. Abandoning the world's ideas of exchange, give and take, lending and debting, as if you could be reduced in spreading peace and joy. Be not the world today, those old worldly ideas. Peace and joy are yours. God's peace and joy are yours. How much could you give this peace and joy away and have what you give? Could you give it if you did not have it? Could you discover that you have an infinite supply of all that is positive, all that love, all that light, all that joy, all that peace? Could you expand it and give it? Could you hit everyone with something they'd love to be hit with, rather than spreading anything that no one wants to be hit with? What will you give yourself today from an infinite supply of your choice? This is your freedom to choose that which you would have. Will you give it and have it? God's peace and joy are yours today. Enjoy this day of giving.